Today is Valentine's Day, and everyone around me seems to be excited. Well, this is not the case for me, and here is why. Last Valentine's Day ruined my entire life. I can't even talk about it without looking over my shoulder. She may just pop out of nowhere and stab me. Right now, I'm in a dark room. All my windows are shut and everything that carries a reflection is covered. I'll tell you who she is if you listen to my story. I really need someone to believe me. Will it be you? It all began 2 years ago, after I found out that my husband was cheating on me with my best friend. My heart shattered the day I walked in on them. I don't know if I was more upset about the betrayal or the fact that I wasted my 20s on a man that never even loved me. I was too disappointed to even hear him out when he came back trying to explain and to apologize to me. I hated him so much that I wished he would get crushed by a moving train. When I told my family about it, my younger sister convinced me to move in with her. She was worried that my mental illness, schizophrenia, would get worse if I stayed alone, so I agreed. Schizophrenia can lead to hallucinations and delusions, and it was comforting to know my sister would be there if I needed her. Even though her house was on the very secluded side of town, filled with lots of trees and not a lot of houses, I didn't care. I was close to my loved one, and that was all I really needed. The first few months were the worst. I lost myself to depression and my schizophrenia heightened. Did I really think staying with family would take away the pain? My sister had her own life. She worked at a job she loved, and to cap it all up, she was engaged to her high school sweetheart. Her life seemed so perfect. Maybe that was why I felt like my own life was a complete mess. I decided to look for a job, but for some reason, I got rejected by all the companies I applied to. I didn't blame them. No one wants to work with a person who has a dark cloud hovering around her. Just when I was about to give up on life, I met someone. I had seen Ben several times at the local supermarket nearby, but I was too soaked up in my pain and grief to even give him the time of day. I met him again after one of my disastrous interviews, and this time, something sparked inside me. We got talking, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. Ben and I hit it off really fast, and everything was going magically until Valentine's Day. I should have known something terrible was going to happen that day because I woke up feeling a bit off. My sister had slept over at her fiance's house the previous night, and she didn't plan on coming back till the following week. I wasn't bothered at all because Ben was going to come over and spend Valentine's Day with me. I brushed off the feeling and went on with my day. I spent the whole day arranging my house and cooking dinner for Ben and myself. I really wanted our Valentine's Day to be special. At 7 p.m. that evening, I went into the bathroom to freshen up. As I picked up my hairbrush, I heard a loud bang. It sounded like someone shut the front door really hard. Ben wasn't supposed to be here till 9 p.m., so I assumed it was the wind. I continued brushing and humming a song as I looked into my bathroom mirror. All of a sudden, I noticed a drastic change on my face. I squinted to get a clearer look and saw the most terrifying sight. I couldn't believe my eyes. Perhaps it was the steam from the bathtub that was making my face look weird. I quickly began to wipe off the mist from the mirror, and the more I wiped, the more I looked like someone else. Why was the face in the mirror smiling mischievously while my own face was flushed with fear? The worst part of this dilemma was that the person in the mirror looked exactly like me, except her eyes were bloodshot red, and her skin was all covered with bleeding scabs. Never in my life had I seen such a disgusting, scary-looking creature. At this point, I was shaking and sweating profusely. The image in the mirror was beginning to look more real and scary. I took a few steps back and immediately I turned to run away when I was met with the most horrific thing. The person in the mirror was right there behind me. It took every ounce of strength in me to take a few more steps away from this monstrous-looking version of myself. As I was moving back, she raised her hands as if to grab my neck. Fear gripped my soul, and all I could do was cry and hope that Ben would show up now. I started throwing everything I could find around me at her, but the more I threw, the angrier she became. It all happened so fast, and even to this day, I still can't comprehend why the lights in my house started flickering. I ran to the kitchen and threw all the knives I could see at her, but none touched her. I fought for my life. The last thing I remember is that something hit my head, and when I woke up, I was tied to a tree outside the house. The monster was right in front of me, almost like it was waiting for me to wake up. Even with a rope in my mouth, I began to scream like my life depended on it, but I knew no one could hear me. The house was in an isolated area, and of course, the whole town was probably out enjoying Valentine's Day. The next thing that happened to me put me in a state of debilitating shock. The monstrous girl held my hand and began to slice off my fingers one by one. Slowly, she took out every finger on my left hand, and as she was cutting my fingers off, blood gushed and dripped down my arm. I hung there, helpless and in so much pain. Tears and blood flowed down to every part of my body. I cried and screamed as loud as I could, but no one came. I lost so much blood that I was beginning to feel faint. As the monster was about to start cutting the fingers off my right hand, I started hearing footsteps. "Is that Ben?" I wailed and managed to shout Ben's name. Thankfully, he heard me and started running towards me. The monster was right there, but Ben didn't see her. He was shocked, and he approached me and tried to loosen the ropes. All my efforts to show him the monster fell flat because he couldn't see the monster that was right there behind him. The monster drew out a sword immediately when the last rope fell off my body. "Ben, behind you!" I screamed, but it was too late. I could see the sword going through Ben's torso, and almost immediately, she vanished into thin air as Ben fell to the ground, motionless. Gut-ripping fear, anger, confusion, and guilt flushed through my veins as I crawled through the pool of blood and a muddy ground. I searched for Ben's keys in his pocket and ran to his truck. I drove off with my right hand, and I never looked back. When I was sure that I was far away from the town that brought doom to me, I stopped. I was near a port with ships and large containers. The cloth I had used to tie my left arm was soaked with blood, and I was feeling very faint and dizzy. The next thing I remember is that a group of sailors carried me to their ship and treated my wounds. I woke up a few days later in a completely different country. I didn't try reaching out to my family because I knew that their lives would be in danger if I came close to them. I also knew that if I stayed, the police would think I killed Ben. Here I am, a year later, in a strange town doing menial jobs to survive. I live in a shelter, and the people around me are far too kind, but I still live in fear. Fear that one day she will show up again. This is why I avoid mirrors. This is why I locked myself in a room today. I know I have schizophrenia, but what I experienced that night was real. Right?